by building 6 of these in the Los Angeles area and the New York area and accelerating air down through this tunnel by means of turbines and electrostatic filters and a low temperature base, we can clean the air of the solids, particulate matter, gases, and all suspended particles within a period of 1 year, clean the air in the Los Angeles and New York area, and then remove these structures and build garden cities again. Let's not wait for nature to do it. We loused it up. We're going to have to clean it up like the war program.
You know, people, before I show this last one, people, just so you know that a lot of this is wondrous to you, and it is to me, of course, but Dr. Fresco is a respected social engineer, industrial designer and inventor, PhD in human factors engineering, and has worked on many things from anti-icing systems to prefabricated aluminum houses, designed systems for noiseless and pollution-free aircraft, wrote the book Looking Forward. He has lectured at the Department of Sociology in Princeton on Sociology of the Future, guest at the College Editors Environmental Conference in Washington, lectured at Queens College, New York, University of South Florida, University of California, designed various items ranging from drafting instruments to X-ray units. And so, you know, don't just dismiss this. If he says it's possible, it's possible. What's this?
Well, in times to come, most of you are probably familiar with the giant units that are used to move the rockets onto their launching platform, tremendous tractor systems. In the distant future, perhaps the next 15 or 20 years, huge tractors may be built with a nuclear reactor built in that can fuse the earth into canals and transportation ways. We can shape the earth by nuclear energy without mixing concrete, without having trucks and human beings leveling the concrete. We can do this today at 20 miles an hour if we wanted to. Shape the earth into highways, waterways, flood control systems in a totally different, reorganized technology.
All right, now, technicians working now in this present setup in the private industry concept, why haven't we seen more things like this? If they are feasible, for example, the Japanese, everybody's working on a high-speed train. And you can't tell me that the Japanese wouldn't like to have, the Seaboard Railroad wouldn't like to have a train that could get you to New York in 20 minutes. Well, even for profit. Why don't they?
As far as I know, at present, there is really no integrated transportation system. Integrating a transportation system, you have to design, it's just like designing a heart of a human being, if God did it this way, and then he decided to put some lungs nearby, and then he built another structure to hold our arms. All of these are afterthoughts. What we have to do is design a city as a living system, as an organism, as a university, that all of the cities of the future will be university cities that grow, that continue to exchange ideas. The city will have a built-in transportation system, so there are no accidents and no unthought out areas of technology. Medicine, botany, agriculture, the total system. One planning system. Our cities have been designed a long time ago. The area like Miami, downtown Miami, they put in a couple of pots and a couple of trees and this kind of simulating an intelligent approach to an environment which costs thousands of dollars, and these little intrusions on Flagler Street only cause the buses and the fire engines and the emergency vehicles to become further tied up. There are no solutions. They're clumsy, academic approaches by people immersed in this kind of society, coming up with their cop-out solutions that have no relationship to the problems. You cannot be a conventional architect, a conventional engineer, work for the telephone company or any other of the old establishment and come up with an idea that is a radical innovation. The space program takes new thinking to save our country, to save our land, to save our environment, to save our youth, our stupidity, our conflict. We've got to reorganize our way of thinking and reconsider our social aims toward the brotherhood of man. We do that or we perish.
What do you think Frank Lloyd Wright would have thought of this?
I think that Frank Lloyd Wright was establishment. I think that his architecture was radical, but I think it was radical in a limited way. And we've got to get away from this limited, I did this and I did that, and the self-centeredness that dominates our society today. It must be a privilege to serve members of society. Not that we want rewards or medals or honor for what we do, because it is just an honor to do it. And if you cannot work for that, then you miss the boat. You don't understand the teachings of the wisest men that ever lived.
In your society, there are no mayors of cities?
There are no mayors, there are no politicians, and you don't have to fill out any forms to go to the art center or music center, and you go to a university whether you can afford it or not.
If you want a suit of clothes, how do you get it?
Well, most suits of clothing are designed by anatomists and physiologists to be comfortable. Most of your shoes will breathe as you walk. They will be very different than the shoes that dominate your society today. Most of your clothing will be organically designed, in that as you move your arms, it'll aerate and breathe, and most of your clothing will be washed by ultrasonics. No detergents, no washing machines, no centrifugal separators. We can knock all of the fluid off clothing today by vibration. We can knock fluids off clothing. In other words, if you could move a piece of fabric from position A to position B rapidly enough, the fluid will remain behind. Ultrasonically vibrating the fabric can remove the fluids. And you need not contaminate your waters. You don't have to use any of the systems today. Let me briefly say this. You have a bumper in front of your car, behind your car. But your society, your car's hit on the side also. You have safety belts and harnesses in your car. But that assumes that you're going to be hit by the rear or in front. If you're hit on the side, you go right through the side of the windshield. What good are these approaches? They are designed by men that are cerebral insufficients. You've got to design a society with a bumper all around the car, phase out human drivers, put electronic guidance systems in cars, or eliminate the automobile and design a holistic transportation system. We must put our mind to this as we do to put a man on the moon. We must put our mind to the social problem. We wish to get away from politics. We wish to get away from the old world method of solving problems. If you can barely understand what it is I'm trying to say in this short period of time, please investigate socio-cybernetics.
Are you saying that General Motors could build a safe car today, totally safe car, with the knowledge at hand?
Yes, if they're given that assignment. They're not given that assignment.
Well, because they're working on their own initiative to make more money.
They're only interested in look, if General Motors had to service their own cars, I can tell you for certain that they would have two levers that you turn down and pull out the engine, shove it in a service unit, and you don't, to change a $3 spring in a car or a $2 part, you got to do a $45 job on a small car just to pull the engine out. But if they had to service the car, I can assure you that whole engine would slide out. You know, they put a race car wheel on with one turn. That's the way your wheels would go on. You'd have bumpers all around. You'd have no chromium, no ornament. The chromium would be in the engine where you have chrome steel, tougher engine. In other words, the automobile companies have actually they have contempt. Let me say this again. All manufacturers have contempt for you to sell you the toothpaste. The products that they sell you are deliberately designed to wear out, break down, so you have to continually service those things. You notice that your telephone is pretty reliable? Well, we here in America can think. We can design things that don't wear out and don't break down and don't require maintenance at all.
Yeah, the instrument, yes. The phone, that stays forever.
You bet. If the automobile companies had to maintain their cars, it would be a forever unit.
Oh, you mean the phone company has to maintain the phone?
You bet.
That's why it's good.
That's why your units hold up.
I never thought of that.
I don't.
So a phone never, I mean, you know, operators can be bad. Yeah. This can be bad, but the phone itself.
Well, it's the same for your TV sets, by the way.
You mean if RCA, if everybody had to maintain their own?
You bet. There ought to be automatic system which you pull out, shove in a replacement unit. If your engine breaks down, they pull out the engine, shove in a courtesy engine, and you take off. Why hold up the whole car when you need a battery job? If you did that in the Army Air Force, you couldn't operate at all. Your society is really comprised of very stupid men. Let me say it again. All politicians, all lawyers, all businessmen will be phased out. I'm not going to do it. It's not going to be a revolution. You don't need it. Our society cannot be maintained by this type of incompetency. It was great, the free enterprise system, about 35 years ago. That was the last of its usefulness. Now we've got to change our way of thinking or perish. Our system is dying. If Nixon remains in, it'll die in his lap. If a liberal group gets in, the society will fall. Our cities are going broke. We don't have the money nor the type of mentality required to save our society in politics or government. I am not your enemy. I am not trying to destroy things. I do not believe in revolution. I believe that ideas must be presented to American people. They have to make the decision.
Now, Dr. Fresco is in the local phone book. Am I correct?
Yes.
Is that the number of people who would call the contact? It's F-R-E-S-C-O, Dr. Jacque Fresco. And we're going to do some more with you because you're... You know what I'd like to do one day?
Maybe
we can do a special.
Yeah. I want to do one on human behavior.
No, human behavior. How about a human behaviorist? And how about some engineers? You know, what if I can get a guy from General Motors, right? An engineer of a car.
Love it. Get me the biggest establishment people you can get hold of. I'd love them. Bankers, ecologists, economists. I can't use the kind of language I'd like to use on TV, but I'd like to talk to them. I'd like to blow it up for you to understand it. Like the money system now, the whole idea of devaluation. Nobody knows what it's all about. They all think it's very complicated. Actually, it's very simple. I'll tell you what it is if I have the time in a nutshell. What's going on? If an island like Haiti had about several $100 million in assets, but they went on, they printed more money than they had things to back it up or gold, then that money has no value. If a little island, say like St. Croix, printed lots of money and just came to the United States to try to buy things, they ran their printing presses night and day, the money is not back. That's why it doesn't have anything. Your whole banking system is utterly corrupt. Your lending institutions have loused up the system, but there's nobody out there telling you what's wrong with it. So it looks okay to you. I'm not afraid of anybody. I don't work for anyone. No one can discharge me. I have no boss. The only thing that can happen to me is I can be put in prison. Well, there are many books to write. In other words, there are many things to be done. I am not afraid. I am afraid to live in the society we live in today. The direction we're moving in gives us 25 years for a total environmental destruction. We have 7 years to mass starvation. We don't have much time.
The value of a nation, dollar value, America's value, the value of the dollar is not based on gold reserve. The value of the dollar is based on faith in this country, right? And its output, isn't it? That's the truth.
You can't build a nation on faith. It has to be backed up by resources.
I mean, but if the French respect the dollar, it's backed by respect for American resources.
Respect, it only means that it serves France in some useful way. A nation's interest in any other nation is always self-interest. When we send representatives to any other country, our self-interest is first. Whatever happens to that nation is secondary. We have nothing but utter materialism which dominates our society today.
You're talking about all countries?
Yes, all countries.
The science is socio-cyberneering. The man behind it is Dr. Jacque Fresco. I'm Larry King.